What yoga pose modifications are allowed for records? Imagine holding a yoga pose 4 hours or performing a tricky balance under extreme conditions. When it comes to setting world records in yoga feats, the rules about modifications are pretty strict. Most record attempts focus on doing the pose as close to the traditional form as possible. The main goal is to show control, strength, and endurance, not to change the pose drastically. Officially, the poses need to be recognizable and standard within the yoga community. For example, if someone is trying to set a record for holding the downward dog pose, they must keep the arms, legs, and back aligned as in the classic pose. Big changes like bending the knees more than usual or shifting the hands or feet significantly are usually not allowed. The idea is to keep the pose true to its original form so judges can verify it easily. Sometimes, minor adjustments are permitted to make the pose safer or more comfortable. For instance, a person might slightly move their hands or feet to prevent injury or to better suit their body. These small tweaks are only acceptable if they do not alter the fundamental shape or purpose of the pose. For example, a slight variation in hand placement in a plank pose might be okay, but not if it turns the pose into something entirely different. Verification is very important in record attempts. Official judges closely watch and document each pose. They check that the pose looks correct and that any adjustments are within the allowed limits. If a pose is held while floating in water or in another unusual setting, the core pose still needs to be clear and recognizable. These special conditions can add difficulty but do not change the basic form of the pose. Using props or external supports that change the effort or balance required are generally not permitted unless the record category specifically allows them. For example, using a wall to help balance in a handstand might be okay if the attempt is about that specific variation. But for most records, the goal is to perform the pose unaided and in its standard form. For those interested in attempting or breaking yoga records, focus on mastering the traditional pose exactly as it is. Practice to build strength, stability, and endurance in that form. Always check the official rules from the record organizations before trying. Prepare for the environment and conditions of the attempt, whether it's holding a pose for a long time or performing it under challenging circumstances. In the end, the modifications allowed are minimal and meant to keep the pose true to its original shape. The emphasis is on showing exceptional control, balance, and stamina within the accepted form. That's what makes these feats so impressive and inspiring to watch.